My lords, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome back to Transport Fever 2 and our Deluxe DLC series based in the American Southwest. We're starting off in Nashville today. We previously set up our train station for Nashville and established ourselves a connection to the main line into Carrollton. That service is now up and running, as we saw at the end of the episode, and as you can see in front of you, I did manage to squeeze in a small road across the train line just outside of the station in Nashville to enable and to prompt the AI to expand Nashville onto both sides of the station. And as we can see on the right of the screen, that has already taken effect. We can see some residences have emerged just next to the station. Obviously we do know that they are going to have issues with noise pollution from the station. However, I'm not overly concerned by that at all. It's a price to pay, and it's one that I'm happy to pay, if I'm honest, for getting the stations right in the middle of the cities, or in some instances right in the middle. So let's bring up the UI. We'll start the calendar straight away before we forget, and today's episode is going to be heavily centered on Nashville and getting Nashville supplied with the first two commodities that it needs for some growth. They are food and fuel, and we discussed the ins and outs of both of them previously in the last episode, so we're essentially just going to pick up where we left off and utilize the nearby industries that we discussed and put those plans into action and see how they perform for us. So let's zoom on out a little bit. So we have a farm here right outside of Nashville, as we can see, and just down this road here, somewhere down here, oh here it is, we have a food processing plant as well. Now that's a relatively short distance. Do we want a train to run this line? It will probably be a little bit too short for a train service. If I'm thinking a bit logically, we could artificially extend it by coming from this farm here. However, I don't know if there's any other viable alternatives nearby. There is this one, but getting up top of this mesa would be very, very difficult with the mod restrictions on the maximum permissible slope for our services. There is a farm here over by Clearwater, but I think that's arguably pushing it a little bit too far, especially when we have something almost on the doorstep. But it would be nice to have a nice long train hauling 200, 250, maybe even 300 units or tons of the grain down here for a nice big payday. And we do have some lines in the area that we could make use of. We have this one here which runs from the iron mine to the steel mill, and we also have this one here which branches off into the Nashville coal mine. So putting a freight station here and connecting it in would be very straightforward. A lot of this could be shared. Obviously we'd keep an eye on how busy this stretch becomes with 3 separate services running down here. And I think the most logical way, if we were to do this, it would be to come through here, pass through the coal mine, reconnect into the iron ore mine, and then off into the Fort Lauderdale processing plant. In terms of getting the food from Fort Lauderdale food processing plant into Nashville, it's quite a short distance, and I'd be inclined to lean towards using trucks to handle this stretch. That way they can go straight into the center of Nashville, wherever it is they are required for immediate consumption. So I think that's the way we'll handle the food. We'll use a Clearwater farm and utilize our existing infrastructure in places. For the fuel, as we said, we do have a fuel refinery at Bellevue, but we might want to see how we can up the throughput here in terms of both crude oil into this oil refinery here, and of course the the refined oil into the fuel refinery itself. I think I mentioned in the last episode one of the obvious ways to do that is, rather than having one long line that drops into various stations, we just have point-to-point lines. So we'd run the crude in on one train, then we'd have a separate train that handles the refined oil into the refinery, and then from the refinery we'd have dedicated trains from the refinery up to Knoxville, and of course into Nashville as well. I think to start with though, we will kick on with the farm. So down in this area, putting in a cargo station, like I said, it should be reasonably straightforward, and I think for this we'll use a terminus station. We do want it to be as long as possible, and we don't want catenary at this point. Let's just rotate it around. So it looks like we will have to demolish a field here at some point, whether it's via our station or the tracks that we end up laying. I think one thing we could do here before we do anything else is just put a shortcut pass right there, and then ideally and hopefully we can connect the station against the side of this road here. Now it doesn't look like we can. If we were to use a pass-through station, we certainly could, just like that. We know that will then connect in automatically to the farm. So what about if, in fact let's just check, if we had a terminus station now connected to this road, now that we've put that extra road in, will that connect? Yes, it will. And I think I'm more inclined to go down that route. It does mean the trains no longer stop in the middle of the platform, instead they run all the way to the end. So it arguably, well, it's not arguable, it's a fact, it does ever so slightly slow your trains down in terms of the line frequency and rate, because they have an extra couple hundred yards to travel, but I think we can live with that. Let's just smooth some of the terrain here, because it's pretty bad. It's quite hilly in this area. It's not the smoothest stretch of land that we've had to work with so far, but by the same yardstick it certainly isn't the worst. So what we'll do now is, from this station we'll get a line that comes out, and we won't connect in immediately. What we'll do is we'll head down here and perhaps connect in just prior to the access from the depot. So I think, in fact, let's just first of all, before we even go ahead with that, let's see what height these train lines are at. Turn that catenary off. Right, so you're at 11 meters. Okay, that means we know what sort of target height we want from here, and we're down at 4, so we're going to have to climb a fair amount. That's the maximum we can get with the mod, or the mod settings that we've implemented, 3%, but it doesn't look too bad at all. And we'll go as far as there then with the gradient, and then we'll doubtless have a tunnel through this hillside here. We will keep the tracks level now at 11 meters with no height change. And head this way just here. Emerge from the tunnel right there. Let's just smooth that. In fact, let's flatten that off. And that should prompt a bit of an easier time when we come to connect this into this. So there goes one of the iron ore trains passing through there now. So how does that look? It's not the best. Can we tweak that slightly? There we go. That looks a bit tidier, doesn't it? So we'll do that, and then have a line that comes parallel, runs through the tunnel parallel with the tracks that we just constructed, and then as we get close to the station, obviously we will bring them together as one. I think from here to the station should give us enough space to get a high speed switch. If we can build the track at all. It's very finicky at times, this, I'm not sure why. Let's see. Okay, so the lowest we drop to is 69 miles per hour, which is completely acceptable. Okay, well, while we're here, why don't we put the signals on this little stretch we've just constructed? So we want a one-way signal. Is that the, yeah, that's the left side of the track. We want the right side of the track. So a one-way signal there, which controls the access in and out of the station. And then we just want a couple of block signals down the duration or down the length of this track here. Maybe put a dwarf signal somewhere inside the tunnel we've just had to construct. We'll put a junction control signal there and there and there. And I think we'll have a couple of short clearing signals, maybe one there. While we're in this area, let's just upgrade them. I have upgraded some of the semaphores. I did say I was going to do that between episodes. I've done some of it, but not all. So let's do the ones that we see as we're working through, such as all of these ones right here. There we go. So yeah, that signal there can clear the junction for anything heading that way. That signal will clear the junction for anything heading to the farm. And these signals here will clear for anything heading down to the iron ore mine, or of course now into the food processing plant. So let's follow the tracks down. So we know that all of this is double tracked. We did that when we set up our secondary coal line. So everything down here is all double tracked. Come through here. Here is the station, or the colliery station. I think what we'll do here is just quickly pause it and rework this ever so slightly, with a view to having this track pass straight through, and this will be two directional. So we'll go as far as there, and then what we want is a diamond here, and it's going to be a little slow because it's on a corner, but that's not too much of an issue. Let's just upgrade that signal right there while we are in the area. There we go. So that way the coal train can get onto the platform and back out onto its appropriate track. And the grain trains will be able to pass through both directions on the new stretch of track that we just constructed. And again, while we're in this area, let's just go through and drop in some of these new signal types to replace the old style semaphores that we are currently using. I'm not going to do everything, just things that I see nearby. So all of these sort of ones here, these are the ones we're going to be focusing on, and it just brings the line into more modern times. Let's just resume the game now that we've amended the signals and the line by the station, so the trains are all happy. They can get where they need to go and they can continue doing what they need to do. Any more down here? Looks like we've got one more set just here. There we go. So now let's head back to the colliery. All the way down here. There we are. So what we're going to do now is, well, it looks like we're going to head straight into a tunnel. And well, we're going to have to head into a tunnel here, and we're going to have to climb up to 27 meters, because if not, we'd still be in a tunnel all the way down here. So let's bring the track as far as this. Let's just have you stay at 27 temporarily, just while you round this corner here. Oh, a bit of a bridge there, eh? Okay, let's see. Is that ideal? Not really. It's quite slow, but It's fine. It's a price we have to pay due to the terrain in this area. Now we need to double track this, and that's going to be difficult as we've entered into the tunnel straight away. What we might have to do is pay through the nose and do something like this then. Just push this cliff back somewhat. Blend out those edges there that we've just messed about with. Delete some of that tunnel, maybe back as far as there. Make sure this is nice and flat. There we go. That doesn't look too bad. Because we want to be able to branch out into a double track before we enter the tunnel. So can we do that here? It's slow, but we certainly can do it, so we will do it. Now rejoin those tracks there. Double track the tunnel. And let's come as far as we've managed to get so far with this. There we go. Right, so that's all fine. Right, so now we're wanting to connect in somewhere down here. So let's just take a moment and check the height down here. 8 meters, right. So we really need to start shedding some elevation at this point from this line. Ooh, what do we have there? The M300, a rail bus. The AMO F15 tank truck. I guess we've got the other variants as well. Yes, the AMO F15 tarpaulin truck. Anything else? No, just those. We don't need them right now, but it's something we certainly can look into. Perhaps using the rail bus on some of the local services that we've currently got running on our map. But let's not get sidetracked. Let's continue trying to get this down to the required height. That's down to 5 meters. In fact, let's just have you do that. And again, let's just get rid of that bridge just there. What are you doing now? 9 meters. That looks about right. Now a little high. Let's just allow the game to determine the gradient for us. And we'll have it do something like this. So let's just double track that little bit we've just worked there. Where did we get to? All the way down here. Well, look at that. So let's do something like that. And why don't we pause it just for a moment, get our track laying tool back out, and then you can connect in like that, and you can then run parallel like that. And then what we want to happen here is for this one to connect over like that. So we want some signals here, so we certainly want one just there and there. We have signals down here already, but we can go ahead and just increase the blocking amount because we're going to have extra services down here. Maybe just do something like that. Remove that signal there if we can, not the bushes. Come on, select the signal. There we go. And you're on that side. Let's have a clearing signal there, so if anything is waiting to come this way, it doesn't have to wait too long. And then down this stretch of track here, between here and the station, we'll put in some blocks. And we can keep these relatively spaced out. As always, we'll use the dwarf signals in the tunnel. And then let's go ahead and put a 3-aspect light just there. Okay. So that's all fine. I think we probably just want to go ahead and smooth some of this off right here where we opted to have the embankment over the bridge. So yeah, just blend that in so it looks a little bit more natural looking. That's better. and maybe a little bit just here as well as we come out of this tunnel. That looks all fine. Just bring that up level as well. Perfect. Okay, so that's all good. That's gonna work okay. A couple of semaphores here that we will just upgrade while we're here. And we have a couple here as well, so let's do these ones. There we go. Now what we need is a station over here. So buildings, we want cargo station, one platform for now. Because as I said at the start of the video, what we'll end up doing, or what we'll likely end up doing, is having the bread delivered into Nashville by some trucks rather than a train service. Looks like we're going to need a new connecting road for this to make sure it's all active and working correctly. So let's do that. And then have it just curve this way before going straight and connecting in just there. And that will give us a straight edge, or at least a reasonably straight edge for our for our station to connect onto. Wonderful. Just bring the train up around the platform edge. There we go. Okay, back to the tracks then. And we want this to come off this way with a view to connecting in somewhere down here. And I think we'll come down to there. This will probably be a little slow, but that's fine. 60 mph isn't too bad. Although the overlap is awful, that's better. In fact, yeah, that one's the one we want. And then double track this up to the station. That signal will need... No, that signal's fine. That one will need moving back a little bit. And in fact, let's go for a junction signal on approach there. There we go. And let's just clear there, and clear there, and clear there. Now we'll just double track this as we go into our new station. Like so. Signal, in fact, let's have that one this time. Signal there. Let's resume the game. We don't need a clearing signal, I dare say. Let's have a couple of blocking signals here though. And this just to make sure that our train has somewhere to wait if there's something on the platform. Let's push. I know that's, in fact, no, we don't need that. That is too short. No, we didn't want to do that, but that's fine. Easily fixed by just doing that. There we go. Okay, I think we're ready to go with setting this up. Let's just rename that though to the Food Lauderdale? No, the Fort Lauderdale Food Plant. And up here we'll probably need to rename this one to Clearwater Farms. Okay then. So I do believe we're ready to go in terms of setting the lineup. First of all, we want to put that as a two-way signal. We don't need to pause it. So we want a new line from Clearwater Farms. We want you to take a full load and wait as long as that you need to for that full load. Loading the grain, you're coming all the way down here, and you should route yourself properly in and around here. Let's just check. Yes, you have. And it looks like the iron ore train has also decided to reroute itself as well, but only on its incoming journey. Yes, the outbound journey. In fact, that outbound journey for this one is also going the wrong way. Right, what's preventing access through? That's the problem right there. That track isn't connected. There we go. So now the iron ore train is also coming back this way. I'd rather it didn't. I want it to continue coming the way it was going originally. We don't need that signal anymore because the grain train has automatically routed itself down here as it should. So let's just temporarily jump over to that grain, so the iron ore service, and that is Fort Lauderdale to Carrollton. On your way from the mine to the mill, want you to go via that way, and on your way from the mill to the mine you want to go that way. Okay, just so this station doesn't get too busy. Yeah, it's obviously it does increase the journey length because it snakes a lot more than this one. However, I don't really have too much of an issue with that. Okay, so back to, as it's currently called, line number 1. All the way in. Yep, you're going to drop off there, that's fine. Colour, let's have you be that colour, because we do want to be able to distinguish it from the iron ore. And that's roughly the same colour as the grain-ish. It's close enough, it's ballpark, which is good enough. Right, so RC, rail cargo of course, and this is grain, and we are coming from Clearwater to Fort Lauderdale, is that right? FTLD, is that what we used? Let's check on that iron ore train. FLDD, okay, so let's just ever so slightly adjust that. FLDD, Fort Lauderdale. Right then, so we should be ready now to get our train for this new service. 2 trains I think is what we'll go with, but we'll make them quite beastie. So let's have a look. So we'll double head with a Mikado. We want the gondolas here. And let's just colour these so they stand out from the iron ore trains. And what did I say? At least 200, maybe even 250 capacity. 252, that's a 300 metre train. It's not too bad on the old performance actually. I think we can get away with just a double header then. We don't need to have a trailing train, but we do want a caboose. So that's going to be 40 million or just under 41 million for those 2. They should be able to find their way onto the line no problem because we set the signal there. Yeah, away they go. So that'll start populating with grain ready to be picked up and shipped down. What we're up to, nearly half an hour, so I think very quickly we'll just set up the delivery line for the food into Nashville. So on the wrong menu, that's what we want. So what's going to be the best way to come? Well, why don't we bypass through, or not bypass through, why don't we pass through the, was it a tool forge that we have just up here? I think it was, this industry just here. No, it was a steel mill. Let's pass through there and then have you come off this way through here, and let's switch to town roads now into there. So they're going to have to cross over the train lines here, so there might be some delays there if there's a train coming or going, but it's not going to end the world. Unload point for this then. Most of the food is over here as we can see. We do have a few stragglers over here, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. We want to focus on the bulk, so let's go and drop off over here. There we go. So let's get, oh in fact no we can't, because we also need to put a truck station down here of course. So truck station, only 1 platform, 30 meters, we don't need tram track on this. And where do we want it to be? Let's have it just here. And then what we'll do is we'll remove that street access and put station entrances and exits instead, which are one way. So they have to go in that way rather than turning themselves around on the station itself. And can you connect in there? Yeah, you can. You can connect in there. Brilliant. And this just saves having to use waypoints for any of this. So this is the Fort Lauderdale food plant I think we went with, so that's what we'll go with again. Let's get this route set up. So new line, you're coming from the Fort Lauderdale food plant, yeah, into Nashville. Oh, you're doing it nice and tidily there, that's good to see. We'll not have you wait for a full load, we'll just pick up whatever's available. There will be times you run empty, that's fine, but you're picking up food. Colour scheme, let's go for a slightly darker shade, so that one just there. And this then is food, and this is Nashville. I forgot the name of the town then. There we go. So the last thing we need before we can get this up and running is, of course, a road depot. So let's just pop you, in fact let's pop it at the midway point up here, because this way we can also use it for any potential bus service we may set up in Nashville as well. So buy vehicles, so we can now have a look at these AMO trucks. I think at the moment we are using the Benz. So if it was going to be the Benz, it would be this one here, which is the tarpaulin truck. The AMO F15, same speed, bit more power, less cargo though, however. So I think we'll just stick with the Benz for the increased carry capacity. And let's go for 8, just because they are travelling a bit of a journey in terms of their length. So yeah, there we go. Assign them to that. And that should do us, I think, for today's episode. So we'll have a ride, and of course we'll take a ride on one of our newly minted grain trains. So what we'll do, and obviously he's going to run empty, well not empty but empty-ish, the majority of him will be empty, and we'll just enjoy the cab ride, and then from here on out they will of course be fully loaded every time they leave. But rather than wait around for him to get a full load, we'll just send him on his way early. So let's pause the date, spin him around and hop on board. So there we go, yet another episode completed, and we've not made a start, we've got everything in place for getting food into Nashville, so that should all kick into effect nicely very, very soon. So next time out we will go to look at the fuel and how we can handle that and increase throughputs and rates. So I hope you continue to enjoy this series. As always, your comments and the likes are more than welcome, either down below or over on Discord. A link is in the description down below. Of course, I always take this time now to say a special shout out to those of you who have pledged over on Patreon, so thank you very much to you over there. That's it's a great gesture, thank you very much. But for now, all that does remain for me to say is, as always, ladies and gentlemen, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.